Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM980 The Eagle.
Good morning. It's 9:36, 24 minutes till 10 o'clock. It's good to see my friend Carol Andrews
Good morning.
in the studio. Good morning.
This is so much fun. We were talking about it. Full circle moment for me.
Now, full circle moment is what. Now, by the way, this is, yes, the same Carol Andrews that you've watched on WGHB Fox 8 television for years and years. You also showed up on WFMY2.
Absolutely, for the last 6 years.
So there you go. I mean, if you've tuned in to Piedmont Television, you probably have seen her either anchoring or doing a report somewhere.
Or you yelled at me for something. I don't know.
Could have done. But that full circle thing has to do with your television
Absolutely.
initiation here, right?
When I came here in way back when, 1990, with WGHP, they were still an ABC station. This was WKZL, and this is where I did my first live shot in this market.
Wow.
And so when I walked in, I said, was this WKZL? And they said, yeah, a long time ago. I said, yeah, that's me, a long time ago.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
I should put it that way. Things have changed a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Over the years.
Absolutely. I have a 14-year-old son that's 6'2", believe it or not.
My goodness.
Absolutely.
Is that from your side of the family, from Dad's side of the family?
He gets it, honestly, from both sides of the family. He really does. Got remarried just last month. That's been wonderful. So life is good. And we are taking the fear out of social media and traditional media for a lot of businesses now so they can build.
Well, talk to me what your pursuit, your passion is now. Is it that social media, demystifying social media? I mean, is that where your real focus is today?
I think that's what it's evolved into. I consider me an evolution because every other day I'm thinking and doing other things. I still do voiceover, but so many times I work with small businesses and they want to know how to get a story told or just how to talk about their business. And they don't have these huge budgets of large corporations. So we demystify it. We try to come up with some solutions for businesses and having a blast doing it.
Well, it's hard for a small company. You know, they don't necessarily think, oh, if we put out one press release, suddenly we'll have every camera in the market and every microphone in the market at our doorstep. And that's not the way it works. It doesn't.
No.
Right? You know that.
No, and one of the big things is you have to put a face to whatever it is you're doing. If you're talking about the best mop in the world, then show me somebody who's going to prove to me it is the best mop in the world, and don't just tell me. You've got to show me something for the visuals. And then maybe it's not a story that's good for TV. Maybe it's better on social media. Maybe it's better in the newspaper. Maybe it's better on radio. You have to decide where you fit.
That's interesting, that a story would jump maybe in social media, but nobody would pay attention to it on TV. But it's the same story. Why is that?
I just think it's the audience that you're trying to reach. If you are trying to reach a millennial, you're probably not going to find them listening to traditional radio or watching traditional TV.
What if I talk loud? What if I talk louder? Will that help get them, you think?
No, you just have to do it on YouTube. You have to sit here and you have to have your smartphone and put yourself on YouTube, and they'll say, oh, Bill Flynn. And all of a sudden you were this new find.
Suddenly, you've been out there as like you've got a lot of history in this market,
Absolutely.
in media. But the reality is there are people that maybe don't know that you spent these decades in television. They find you on social media and say, well, she's got something I'm interested in.
It's a whole different ballgame. I have a group of people that know me because of children's books. I have a group of people that know me because of TV, and I have a whole different group that knows me because of social media. And it seems like never the twain shall meet.
That's I noticed something very interesting about that. The idea that this group of people doesn't know the other iteration of Carol Andrews. And I saw that in the world of politics. You know, there are people that knew me from the radio, but in the world of politics, it wasn't a translation directly. I mean, if you really wanted to make the connection, you had to say, oh, yeah, by the way.
Well, I smiled because you met my husband recently.
Yes, I did.
And you guys had a wonderful conversation about politics, a lively conversation.
Yes.
And then when I said, Bill Flynn from radio, I know him.
But the connection wasn't made.
But the connection wasn't there.
Yeah. He was working on a pressure washer, I think, that day, wasn't he?
It never worked. We never got it to work.
You know why? Because I distracted him and we took all the time to talk about that. He probably had to go on to something else.
Oh, I think it's a lot of it is because we just, and we laugh about it because both of us need adult supervision when it comes to doing anything around the house. So we can go out and speak and write books and all that other stuff, but just the fixing the power washer.
Yeah, it can be a tough thing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned children's books, and I remember talking to you about one of those that you had written along the way. What is it that's special for you about writing for children? Why is that a passion?
I started writing for children because I didn't like what my son was reading. I think every child should be able to see themselves. And what we didn't see were biracial children. And my son, who is biracial, I wanted to see himself in books. And so I wrote these universal books where it kind of looks like all children. It looks like a melting pot of a child. And that's what I wanted him to see. And so I wrote 2. And now I'm working on an adult book, and that'll take longer because I have to sit down and focus.
Back to that adult supervision.
Yeah, back to that
thing.
adult stuff.
All right. Did your son, did he know that you had written those books when he was little? Was he at the demo that you were writing for at that point?
He was very young. He was still in a crib, and my illustrator, especially on the first book, Stephen Cozart who's an art instructor in Greensboro. His daughter and my son are about the same age, so it was a perfect story of what you can get done at nap time, because we'd bring him in, put him in the crib, put him to sleep, and then we'd work on the book.
Oh, very cool.
So
did your son recognize it was mom had written this book? Was that or did he like the book and then later found out mom had written it? How did that go?
He recognized it because I've always had him travel with me. I've always had him go with me. We were in Atlanta once and talking to a group of 5th graders, and my son was listening, and he's a very intent listener and on most things because he is a 14-year-old. But he was listening, and then he got up after I had finished, and he was standing there with the book, and it was upside down. And he said, and the 5th graders, I guess they had younger siblings, they all turned around and stopped and waited for him to speak. And he says, "Now, if you don't understand lichens, don't worry, because I can explain them to you."
Oh, wow.
And the book was about lichens. So it's, he gets it because he's been with me, and he's always been a part of any and everything I do.
Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful relationship.
Yeah.
And one day he's going to have to, take all that wisdom and do his own thing somewhere away from mama. That's going to be a tough thing. I need you to know.
Just for me.
Yeah. That's,
He'll be fine. I'll be like, I'll be back here saying, "Bill, okay, talk to me now."
I can give you some help on that because our sons are in our 20s now. But we'll come back in 2 minutes and have more with Carol Andrews, local television news anchor, and so much more on AM980 The Eagle.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM980 The Eagle.
Good morning. It's so much fun to sit here and to talk to Carol Andrews, television news journalist for some decades here, since 1990. Mm-hmm. That's a long run in media, and now social media, and now children's books, and you also do a speaking tour. Tell me about what you speak about.
I talk about life challenges, stepping out and stepping out on faith, even talking about how you can step out and find out where your true safety net is. I also talk about social media and traditional media. I try to take the mystique and the fear out of so many of these things so that people feel like it's not something I can do, but they can't.
Mm-hmm. And there's just the opposite so often you find in the world of business. It's almost that proprietary, this is how we do it, don't tell anybody, and we're really reaching out there. But you're out there trying to make this available to every small business that's out there.
Absolutely, and it's that old adage, if you help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want too.
What does Carol Andrews want? I mean, seems like she's got about everything. She's got a career. Mm-hmm. She's got a flashy, fancy new husband.
He's flashy, fancy.
You got a healthy, tall, 14-year-old, fine son.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the word faith. I mean, talk to me about what your interests are. What's at the core of what you want and at the core of your faith?
I just feel like I'm ever evolving. I'm ever learning. And my faith tells me to listen, allow God to speak through me, and he's going to tell me exactly where I need to be, when I need to be there. I don't get to retire because of that 14-year-old kid that has a size 15 shoe. So it is part of my faith journey. I don't know the end game. And that's the exciting part, is just getting there. I know I want to help people. I know I want to empower people to live their dreams, be the best that they can be. How you get there, I don't know, but it sure is fun on the journey.
Your personal story is so compelling too. You have you say a biracial child was your term, and you. I've talked to folks that are in biracial marriages, and there are struggles that probably only those folks that are in those relationships really understand.
Yeah, and
tell me about
I guess for me, I'm a little different. Since I don't look for the struggle, I never find it.
Wow.
Since I don't consider myself a victim on any level of the conversation, I never have been. So I think you love who you love. You allow your children to be the best that they can be, and let the rest of the world fall where they may.
Why is that such a hard lesson for so many, do you think?
I think that's a faith lesson. I think that when you truly let go and let God handle it, then the rest of it falls into place. But a lot of us, especially as Christians, will say, I'm letting it go. And then 10 seconds later we'll say, but wait a minute, I can pick it up for just a second more to get to do this. And I think when you truly step out on faith, and when you truly say, okay, not my will, but your will, you have to let a lot of that stuff go. Mm-hmm. And I just did.
And did this happen? Did you have an epiphany at some point in your life, or just growing up, were you in such a idyllic environment with mom and dad and it never became an issue for you?
Yes and yes.
Tell me, where'd you grow up? You moved here in 90.
I moved here in 90. My father was career military. He was career Army. And so I grew up in Central America, came back. They retired in Atlanta. And so my childhood was great. I went to the University of Michigan. There really is no other school, guys.
But I was in Atlanta, too.
Yeah.
But this would have been in, the late 60s, mid 60s.
No, I didn't
Atlanta.
come back until the 70s. I came back in the 70s.
You know where the Orange Crush plant was?
Yes.
I used to go there with my then girlfriend, Linda.
Oh, too funny.
We hold hands and go, and they give us a free Orange Crush from the factory.
Those are great. And then underground where the Coca-Cola folks are. And so now it's awesome there.
Well, that's a whole new thing. But anyway, it's a fascinating thing. So you grew up in an environment of a lot of love.
Yep, absolutely. I grew up out of the country. So for a big chunk of that, and I came back and went to high school in Atlanta, college in Michigan, and then went back to Georgia. I am a law school dropout, believe it or not, because I would have been a poor lawyer, because after I got into it, I was like, not everybody has the right to a lawyer. Some of them just need to understand that there is right and wrong. So.
Did you know at that point, when you're in law school and you realize this is not your cup of tea, what drove you into media? What was the thing that helped you find your cup of tea?
I needed to get a job. And I was one of those students that loved anything that I could write or read or, do a paper. And so my major, I was a very close between my major and my minor. One was English and one was journalism. And I really, when I came out of law school, wasn't sure. So I had to go back and make sure which one it was. If it had been English, I'd have been a teacher. Journalism, I said, okay, I've got to find something to do.
Journalism is in fact, I just talked to a group of folks that were being honored at Forsyth Tech about journalism. And what do you think of the state of journalism today in newspapers and television in general, network and local, and all the above?
I think there was a fine line in the beginning of that field, of the field of journalism. There's a fine line between what we do and how we associate with everybody. Well, it's a lot different now. The lines are blurred now. It's entertainment. It is news. I still think there's a valid place, and there are some wonderful stories that come out. But there's a difference, and the competition is different because we are competing with social media. We used to have, when there were only 3 channels, you watched ABC, CBS, or NBC. Well, now you've got cable, you've got internet, you've got so many other sources that people just aren't watching the traditional way. So you have to be creative to draw those audiences.
And it's still very expensive to do a local television news broadcast. And if your audience is declining or staying with you less number of minutes, your advertisers, of course, want to see that number go up, and it's all based on that. So what do you see in the future, though? I mean, is it a continuation of this immense dispersion of media options and social media and traditional broadcast? What do you see?
I think you are seeing an evolution again of media, because it's not just, you don't just see your anchors on television. You see them more present online. You see them more present in social media. So it's not like you wait till 6 o'clock to bring someone the lead anymore. If you have the lead, then it's going out on your website, or it's going out on Twitter, or it's going out. You're not holding stories anymore. So people are getting their news in a more efficient way now. And that's not a bad thing. Change is not necessarily a bad thing.
Now, do we know that if you send out a tweet that says, hey, coming up on the 6 o'clock news with Carol Andrews, there's a story that's out here. And here's a little bit of it that we know, and we'll have the rest of the details. Do we know that actually will drive people to watch that TV newscast, or will they just be satisfied with that little glimmer that you give them?
I think we find out where it drives them, because there's something on Twitter. You've only got 140 characters on Twitter. So you may have a web address to take them to a website. They go to the website. They want to see the video. The video is going to be on television. Some may be online, but the fuller story. And I think it depends on your level of interest. And the analytics online now tell you a little more about how people's trends are moving.
One of the things you do is work with clients and help prepare them to present themselves on social media or other media.
Yes.
What are some of the top 2 or 3 tips that you would say everybody has to be aware of?
Know who you are. Know your brand. Know who you are. If you can tell me who you are in 6 seconds, if I can shake your hand and say, hi, I'm Carol Andrews, and I'm taking the fear out of social media for you. You know who I am. You know why I'm there. If you have your purpose, that's one. That's a biggie. Know your parameters. And definitely watch what you put online. You know, the other biggie, you don't want to put your party and your drinking and your all that stuff online, because whether it's a potential employer, a potential client, or a potential vendor, they're going to look at that and say, maybe not.
And that stuff sticks.
It does.
I mean, it doesn't go away. Even if you wipe it out, it's quite possible.
Whatever, if anybody shared any post that you've ever done, it's there for infinity. And you have to assume that somebody's sharing something.
That is such a different world. I mean, when we were kids, we could make mistakes and it would be just forgotten about and blow away in the dust. But now, the pressure on kids, if they make a social media mistake, it doesn't go away.
And it's not just kids. I listened to something this morning that just made me smile and floored me. Attorneys now. The Bar Association says it is okay for attorneys to look at your Facebook profile before you go to jury duty.
How about that? I saw that as well. We're out of time, but connection, Facebook, where are you?
Carol Andrews, NC. You can find me anywhere.
Carol Andrews, NC.
On any platform.
Hey, God bless you. Great to see you.
Wonderful to see you. Thank you for having me.